Hey, sports fans! Coach Nick here, and welcome to the B-Ball Breakdown live show post-game coming at you right after the Game 2 blowout the Celtics had over the Indiana Pacers. Welcome, everybody. Hope everyone is well. The game was not as exciting as I think we all hoped, but certainly a fantastic way to start the game for the Pacers, considering they came off of another game where they had basically choked their best chance at getting in the series. I was worried they would come out sort of flat and emotionally disjointed because of that, but it turns out that they're resilient. They're tough. They were winning after one by 2 points, and they're pretty much playing exactly the way they needed to hang in there. But I don't think I had going scoreless for whatever that was, 5 minutes or something on my bingo card as the Celtics just kind of put it away at that point. Obviously, the injury news to Halliburton is potentially devastating, and it's the same hamstring that he had already injured before. So that is a real problem, obviously, because without him, as we saw, I mean, Doug McDermott is now playing, and it was already probably decided by that point. They don't have a chance. I mean, it's a sweep if he doesn't come back in, he can't play. But, other than that, if you don't forget, if you have any questions you want to have answered, the best way to do that is with the super chat function over on the YouTube side, if that's where you are. And then, as always, we're going to bring in Chip Clark, referee Chip Clark, to help us talk about some calls and the game and everything else. So, Chip, how's it going, man?
Hey, man, good to see you.
Yeah. I mean, it's kind of like I don't know, the mood in the locker room, being the show we're in right now, a little bit somber, perhaps. Is this the series? Is there any hope for the Pacers now?
I mean, let's just hope that Hallie's okay. I mean, they talked about what is his left hamstring, the one he had injured earlier and missed 10 games for. So, man, you really hate that. Even as a neutral basketball fan, not a fan of the Pacers, you just hate to see that. I mean, if he, with hamstring injuries, what the timetable is usually, I mean, we'll see how bad it is, but
yeah,
it's
he kept playing on it. And so there was a moment I had actually caught it, but it was kind of hard to see, where he just they got scored on and he gestured to the bench a couple plays before play stopped and he left. And it looked a little bit either that he was mad they got scored on, or he's like, hey, this isn't working. And then a couple plays down. But I mean, he was going up and down the court, which is also encouraging. So he probably felt it was probably pretty tight. And it's the kind of thing where, all right, maybe they can get some treatment for a couple days and get it loosened back up. But, once it starts happening like that, in my mind, you're really in danger of aggravating it continually until either it gets really bad or you've just given it enough rest.
Well, yeah, and the fact that I believe in the conference finals, they play every other night, don't they?
Yeah. Yeah,
I don't think there's not a 2 day break in there either. So
fair enough. I kind of was thinking from now until the next game is probably 48 hours, right? But
yeah, exactly. Oh, well, yeah, exactly. But they don't have that extra day break, that maybe they had in the conference semis. You know what I mean? So it's going to be tough to. I mean, we'll just see if he's able to come back, first of all, and then how hamstrung he is, for lack of a better word.
Yeah.
But it's we were texting throughout the night about, his defense, and now I can't really go in on him all that much because he's injured. So I'm kind of like, you know what I mean? And not that I was going to go in on him much anyway, but he was playing that Burger King defense tonight. Have it your way.
Exactly. So we could talk about that for a little bit, because, again, what we do know about the Pacers are they're a wondrous offensive basketball team, even though they didn't look that way tonight or for big stretches. But, their defense is a real problem. And before Halliburton went down, we kind of have to assume he was fine until the end when they took him out. And it's uncanny. They were talking about in the broadcast as well. They're trying to give, weak sister, or I think that was one of the terms. I forgot what the duck, or he has got a target on his back, and it's uncanny how often they get just a great shot simply by going at him. He offered no resistance, to the point where maybe he was already kind of suffering, and they didn't say anything. They're hoping it would go away. I don't know. but it really was bad the way he looked defensively. Now, offensively, he did look fine, and there's also obviously when you're playing offense, you're going in a different direction, right? You're going forward,
Mm-hmm.
and with defense, when you go backwards, there is a little bit more of a notion of like, okay, my hamstring comes into play here, I think.
Mm-hmm.
And so, but it's really a problem because it's worse than just like even when you see the worst defenders getting targeted, getting a switch. In my mind, it's like it's too easy. He needs to just be better. I think I texted you, right? He just needs to be better than terrible because he's so good offensively. And if he can do that, then they'd have a shot. But at this point, I don't think it matters.
Yeah, and I mean credit the Celtics. You know, like they've got the star power to get it done. They've got the role player. I mean, Derek White had a 23-point night tonight. You know, obviously you've got Jaylen Brown, whose first half was just incredible. You tend to see. I don't know if it's a trend, but we've seen Tatum start a little slow, I believe, a few times in the playoffs, and then he usually gets his the bulk of his points near the end. He ended up with 23, I believe. But just a monster night from Jaylen Brown. Celtics great. And then going back to the defensive point for the Pacers, like that has to be a topic of discussion. We can only praise the Celtics so much. You look at the first half stats, and one of the things that really stuck out to me is I even text you about it, is the bulk of their points, the Celtics points, are coming from behind the arc or in the restricted area. Mm-hmm. They made 4 shots in the whole first half that were not in the restricted area or not outside the 3-point arc. And 3 of those were right outside the restricted area in the lane. So
and then if you want to get into go ahead.
Yeah, they were getting to the rim with ease in the first.
And if you want to talk about transition, they were blowing their assignments in transition, not picking guys up a few times. And I got to tell you, like if you're playing in the conference finals, that cannot happen once. There can never be a moment where all of a sudden, and by the way, we saw it in the breakdown I did today, where they were trying to press at the very end. The game kind of was over at that point. I mean, they were down. I think they were down 2, or was it down 2 or down? Yeah, they've been down 2. Actually, they were kind of right there. They wanted to press with like 14 seconds left, and you had Conley and Slow-Mo like just not knowing who to guard. And there was a few extra seconds while the Mavericks like let the ball roll before they inbounded it, and they still didn't get it figured out. And then they ended the game. You cannot do that at this level of the playoffs and hope to have any hope of winning. And it's frustrating. So, the coaches got to be better. The players got to be better. They need to be just better organized. You're supposed to have 82 games in the regular season to figure all this stuff out. And like when you still see that, it makes me, concerned. And I wonder just, how much interest is going to be in this series now. But even before, it doesn't feel like it, certainly if there's any indication from the video I did in game 1, like not a lot of people are interested in seeing the Celtics Pacers. And so if the Celtics get by this on a sweep because of the injury to Halliburton, then, people talk about easy paths to the finals. Like this will probably be one of the easier ones of all time by the Celtics.
Well, and I think a lot of people anticipated that, and that's maybe why it's not garnishing. That's maybe why it's not garnering like a ton of focus on it. You know what I mean? So, like, here's the thing. If the Pacers somehow are able to figure it out on their home court where they're 6-0 this playoffs and get a couple of wins and even the series, game 5, 6, those are going to be, there's going to be some eyeballs on that. So, and it's going to pick up some steam. But I just don't see a way where they win 2 at home against the Celtics team. I think the Celtics have too much for them. And if the Celtics are hitting threes, it's going to be hard to beat them.
Oh, absolutely. Well, let's look at the box score real quick to get a handle on the numbers here. So for the game, the Celtics went 15 for 37, which is 40.5% from 3, compared to, by the way, the Pacers hit 11 and 29. So they were kind of keeping some pace to that. And then overall, the Pacers, again, shot 52%. So their offense was kind of humming, even though they had that big drought. They were right there with them there. Yeah.
Yeah. And as we continue to look at the stats, I took a peek at them before I hopped on, and like most of the stats as far as percentage goes, were very, very similar between both teams. It's actually weird. It's actually weird for it to be this big of a blowout.
And let's talk a little bit about Siakam, because I've been kind of on him all, for a while, wondering where he's rated, if he's overrated or not. He came through for them. They needed scores, and he came through. I think that was the third quarter. He just kept scoring in the mid-range or in that little 12-foot range area. Nothing fancy, nothing crazy, but just using his length and shooting over the defender and getting to the spots. Still some mistakes. He just makes some mistakes that higher IQ players don't make, and it's frustrating. Like defensively too. And at some point, you got to say, like, okay, like the coaches need to get on these guys or need to be in contact with them better to help them understand where these mistakes are happening. It's not just Halliburton, and then certainly like Obi Toppin is a guy that makes it really hard to play him because defensively he'll get in the wrong positions and he'll get scored on. And what he does offensively doesn't necessarily overcome that, which is why Halliburton is okay because he can balance it out or give you a little bit more than normal. I mean, let's see, what was he today? I mean, he was 4 for 8, 2 for 6 from 3 with 8 assists and 10 points total, in 27 minutes. So we have to just kind of ascertain exactly when this, hamstring started bothering him, and like at what point did we see that disconnectedness? But
because they've got to have more out of him if they want a chance to win. You know what I mean? They just have to.
Yeah,
so who knows if it was because of the hamstring injury or how early it really was bothering him. But yeah, the Pacers have to have more out of him. Credit Siakam, man. Like you said, he made some big shots. He went on that run by himself at the end of the second quarter, and then to start the third quarter, he stayed on that heater, and got the bulk of his points there. He did some big shots for him. Goodness, his field goal percentage was had to be somewhere in the mid 70s, I would believe.
In the second quarter, he went 6 for 7 in the second quarter for 85, almost 86% from the field. In the third quarter, he did 4 for 7. He cooled down to 57, but and overall it was 76.5% from the field.
Oh yeah, pretty good game for him, and they needed it out of him, but it just wasn't even close to enough, with the rest of the team. So we'll see what happens, but the Celtics, man, literally they went out and did what people are expecting them to do. I texted you before the game. I said, what do we think? 15 plus. Yeah, margin of victory for the Celtics. So and they showed that's how they're going to play it, man. They're going to get it done
for sure. Well, we have Chris who's going to join us now and give us his take on the game as we progress through the show. But Chris, what's happening, my man?
Hey guys, how's it going?
Hey man, good to see you.
We're kind of down. I'm kind of bummed. I wanted the series, and I don't think there's a series now. I think it's over. Don't you?
Yeah. I didn't even really notice. I was watching and I was like, wait, where's Halliburton at the beginning of the fourth? I'm like, he hasn't got back in the game. He hasn't gone, like, when is he? Why is Carlisle waiting? The lead is 13 going to 14, going to 15. And they say, oh, he pulled something in his leg. I was like, oh, here we go again.
Yeah.
He wasn't really having a great first half. But you just never know when, great players can flip that switch and maybe shift the game. It was unfortunate he couldn't finish the game, but yeah, Celtics did what they had to do. I think I mentioned it either yesterday or the day before. They don't really in the half court, even in transition today, the Pacers show that they can't really. They have no matchup for Jaylen Brown when he has a head of steam. There's no answer for him. They don't have that personnel on their team. Nembhard keeps ending up on him for some reason, either him or Jason Tatum, and it did not end well for him today.
No,
they're just too big. They're just too big at the end of the day.
Yeah, and by the way, like Jaylen Brown isn't like Tatum is legit. Like we talked about that, he's 6'8", 6'9", whatever. He's pretty tall.
Yeah.
I don't think that Jaylen Brown is more than about 6'5", but he's just long and he plays bigger. He elevates, and so it makes it much harder. I know Combo and I sort of had this discussion about is Brown better than Tatum? And I think that there might be some notion to when you're guarding Tatum, not that it's any easier than guarding Brown, but I think a lot of times when Tatum slows everything down and makes it into a second ISO, it kind of does, because then, he's going to end up getting a shot up, but it's usually going to be a much harder shot. He can make those, but for me, it's like when Brown gets going like this, it's like like you said, there is no answer. And what's more depressing is I just don't think that the Pacers could come up with anything interesting defensively to try and change it. Spoelstra would figure some things out. He would try maybe some zone, try loading up a little bit. I mean, listen, you want to try and double Brown with Tatum on the backside? Okay, maybe that'd be risky, but I think at this point you're down 2-0. If we don't see some fundamental, adjustments on the defense, I'm going to be upset.
Yeah, absolutely. They the Celtics, so Tatum usually initiates the offense at the top of the key, right? And when Jalen usually gets the ball, it's either catch and shoot in the corner or he's making a quick decision on those on the sides of the court on either corner, right? So I think if they sometimes flipped it
Mhm.
sometimes, like you saw, I think Tatum's only three that he made was a catch and shoot three in the corner. And he actually has a higher for the regular season. He has a higher percentage of catch and shoots instead of movement dribble pull ups. Like his 3 point percentage is higher on spot ups than it is when he's dribbling the ball. And it's actually the opposite for Jaylen Brown. So that's really just an
Interesting.
interesting wrinkle. So maybe they should flip it
Yeah.
a little bit.
Well, and by the way, you should always do that. It makes you harder to guard when you attack from different
Exactly.
areas of the floor.
Yeah.
I know that Tatum in the past has shot better off the dribble from three than catch and shoot.
Mm-hmm.
So they're both anomalies. They're both weird. I mean, Tatum's got a very awkward kind of motion. But, listen, it doesn't matter. The guy has been able to do 50, 40, 90 basically, at least once or twice. Like he can really nail it. Whether it looks like he's doing the worm or not, I don't know, but it's definitely awkward. And it almost makes sense that, yes, okay, off the dribble would be maybe a little bit better for Tatum.
Mm-hmm.
But either way, I mean, with those two guys, it's like they're finally going to get their chance to really prove who they are. And I think, I mean, they're going to get all the way to the finals at this point. I mean, I just don't think that Halliburton, obviously, he's not going to be 100%, right? I mean, that doesn't seem possible now. So even if he does play, without him 100%, Pacers have no chance, I don't think. So, okay, as they get to the finals, and again, they already cruised through this having Donovan Mitchell get hurt. Who was the first round? Didn't they have an injury?
Well, Jimmy Butler already wasn't really playing.
Yeah, Butler was out, and then Terry Rozier, like whatever. I don't know. So, so they had a little advantage there that they didn't necessarily need. But let's say, okay, if Minnesota has to play him, or if Dallas has to play them, I would suspect yes, that would be their toughest challenge on an order of magnitude they haven't even experienced yet.
100% agree. I mean, I think either of the two teams in the West could make it a good series against the Celtics. And like, listen, you got to give the Celtics their due, man. Like they're a good team.
Yeah,
they've got some good stars. I mean, like I'm actually interested to see, how they do match up with a Dallas or a Minnesota. You know what I mean? And see what they've got. Because I do feel like, and I don't want to discredit them at all, but like you mentioned, they've faced some teams with some star power out or some injuries, and it seems like they're cruising to their credit. But I want to see them get faced with some adversity. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and they need it. It helps them deal with it when they do experience it. And don't forget, if you have any questions you want to have us answer, the Super Chat's the way to go over on the YouTube side. Listen, Chip, are there any calls that we should talk about? Let's talk about the one that they challenged when there was a hooking motion by Jackson. And it was interesting because the referee kind of blew the whistle, it stopped the play. Right, the wheels started going. He really thought about it for an extra few seconds, and then called an offensive foul. So why it looked like I tweeted out? It looked like a classic. The guy, he hooked him around, and then you call it. So why was it overturned, and why did they give it back to the Boston Celtics?
That's a good question. So the first part of it I want to address is Sean processing that play. So you see him come in with the whistle, and you can tell the wheels are grinding. So in that situation, what he's processing first is Tatum coming into Jackson's space. Okay. So Tatum kind of reaches, forward and moves forward towards him and is kind of straddling Jackson's leg. So that's the first thing he's processing. And he's probably going to start calling that until he sees Jackson's obvious hook around the backside. I don't think he saw the head contact at all. I think if he would have seen Tatum contact Jackson's head when he started moving toward and into him, I think that he would have made the obvious call of defensive foul right there. But because the hook was just kind of so blatant and everybody saw that, I think that's what made him at the last second go ahead and send it the other way.
Yeah, and by the way, I misspoke. I meant that the Pacers got the ball back because it was a foul initially, right on Tatum before the hook. And obviously,
Yep.
when you go to the replay, you're allowed to go in order and sequence of how the play unfolded.
Yes, exactly. Yep. So in that situation, they're overturning it, going with the foul on Tatum, and Indiana gets the ball back. So it was one of those where here's the thing: when I look at reviews, or look at the replays as they're going into review for a challenge, I look at it the same way I try to look at it when I'm officiating live speed, right? Like there's so many different things that you got to keep an eye on, but there's some things that you can pick up on replay that you maybe didn't catch originally. And so I'm looking at the opposite of what I would be looking at live speed. So in live speed, I'm processing him coming into Jackson, but then I'm also seeing that hook. I've already seen those two things. So when I look at replay, I already know that. So now I want to look and see if there's any other point of contact, whether it be to the head, whether it be foot-to-foot contact on some other plays that everybody misses except for officials, the first go around. Those type things are things I'm looking for when it goes to challenge, if they show a replay right before the commercial break, and then I usually go back and look at it again. But that one was an interesting one, and I knew it was going to be overturned as soon as it went to break because I caught that head contact before it went to break. So
okay, good call. Any other calls that stood out?
Yeah, well, I mean, so let's talk about, because we can group four of them into one. I think there's about four different potential traveling plays that were kind of, had some people upset. One that was called, I'm thinking about a sequence in the second quarter, I believe, where Holiday was called for a travel by Scott Foster in the post area.
Yeah.
Okay. That's actually a split and go travel, and Scott was all over that. It was a really, really good call. Holiday's got back to the basket, and he's going to try to do a quick spin to get around, and he starts his dribble. Well, he literally picks up both feet and split steps as he's trying to spin around before he releases the ball to start his dribble, and by rule, that's a travel. The reason that's interesting is, so Scott was all over that. That next trip down for for Indiana, they get the ball right after that travel call. They come back down, in that next possession, Scott's the lead he's the lead, right? And so that long pass comes, and I believe it was Siakam. He catches the ball in the air, lands left, right. All right. I believe it's left, right. Yeah. Lands left, right. And then stutter steps with his right foot.
Yeah.
And then kind of turns, and everybody's thinking, man, he stepped so many times. Well, that's him. He came to a legal stop. And after you come to a legal stop, then the officials identify the pivot foot, right? So the pivot foot was the first foot to land after he gathered the ball with both feet off the floor. That's going to be his pivot foot. So the stutter steps don't matter. That's just a pivot. And so since he's come to a stop, he just has to release that ball to start his dribble before he lifts that pivot foot off the ground, and he does that. But Boston wanted to travel on that, and they were yelling at Scott about it, saying, you just called that one down there. Why didn't you call that one here? Well, just because it's awkward doesn't mean it's a travel. Right. And that one was awkward, but it was not a travel. Then you've got two other ones that are potential travels, and we talked about one of them in a text message where it was a really, really nice play. Neesmith drives the lane. He ended up not getting the bucket, I don't think.
Right.
Which coincidentally, well, not coincidentally, that's it. In my opinion, the minute after that is where the game turned for good in the third quarter. Because here's the thing. I believe it was either that possession or the one right afterwards. But anyway, he drives the lane. He ends his dribble going into traffic. He ends his dribble with his left foot on the floor. That's his gather foot. He jumps off his left foot, and he lands simultaneously on both feet for a jump stop for step one. If any of you out there are listening and you don't know this, lock it into your head. Remember this forever. If you land on both feet in the NBA and FIBA, that only counts as one step if both feet land simultaneously. It is not two steps. Okay. It is one step because they landed simultaneously. So he ends his dribble, gathers with the left foot on the floor for his 0 step, jumps off it, lands simultaneously on both feet for step one, and then literally steps through with his left foot legally. After he landed on both feet for step one, either foot could be his pivot foot. He could have chose still and still pivoted and stepped through. He chose to immediately step through with that left foot. Boston wanted to travel. No travel there. Legal play. Good no call.
And by the way, the reason why it looked like they wanted to travel is because it wasn't technically a step through, because he lifted up the left foot. land on the both feet and then step with the left foot again. We're normally used to seeing the right foot cross in front of the body as a step through, but he doesn't have to, right? You can jump, you can step with either foot, and you can go in either direction. So that's why it's a devastating move, and everybody should learn this in the high school level too. But you just got to. Although, wait, in the high school level, you got to be in the air when you end the dribble.
You just couldn't have that gather step. You couldn't end your dribble with one foot on the floor. You'd have to end it with both feet off the floor, land simultaneously, and then step across. You're right. It wasn't like an up and under. It wasn't an up and under where he stepped through across. Like and man, that catches defenders off guard so much. Like,
especially when you do it quickly, because there's also no rule. Most of the times, guys, they come down, they land, they kind of look around for a second, then they step through. No, you can go boom, boom, and it's like, and that throws everybody off. It'll throw the whole crowd off who they're going to scream for travel. And maybe show the referee before the game that's the move that you guys like to do, and that should help clear that up. But it's a devastating move. I wish I had learned that when I was playing, because I would have loved that. I was always really good at all the up and under and all the step through stuff, but never had a conception of, wait, I don't have to cross my foot in front of my body. I could still go the same direction. Like nobody ever taught that. I never saw it.
It's very hard to defend too, man. It's very hard to defend. And you wish that something came out of that play too. And then that possession, I think right after that was the possession where, so Boston has been beating them up on the offensive boards all night. Right. Mm-hmm. And then the Pacers finally had that one possession where they got like 4 offensive rebounds in the same possession and couldn't get any points off of it. 0 second chance points on that possession. And then that's where around 4 minutes of the third quarter left. And then the Celtics just ran away with it from there. They hit that big three in the corner, and
Halliburton went out. They had to bring McDermott in. Listen, I think McDermott could probably be a decent rotational player, but just hasn't been getting any run. They don't have any hope anyway. Really, their defense just not good enough. It's kind of remarkable that they can make it this far, right? I know that Nembhard hit a game winner against the Knicks. That was huge for them. What was that, game 2?
Game 3.
Game 3. So that was a crucial game in Indiana. Mm-hmm. A couple of things went really well for them. Brunson gets hurt, although they were already down, they were already winning. OG gets hurt. Like a couple of things happened that probably
Robinson.
Mitch Robinson didn't play. All those were huge for them. And so they kind of now we're realizing, wait a minute, they're playing against a different team altogether that can really play some defense on them. And by the way, despite all that, they still shot 52%. It's inspiring to some degree that you can have a team like this, teach them how to play offense where they're moving the ball like they do. And you're going to find a lot of success. It's great to see. And hopefully, even the lower levels, when coaches a lot of times think, well, I just don't have any talent, I don't have anything. It's like, well, that's when you're supposed to teach the skill and really try and maximize that and give them those tools. Defensively is where you get, especially at the high school level, as we all know, there's a lot of times there's nothing you can do, right? Nothing. Mm-hmm. I know that feeling well. But I also know that you can do the same thing to them. You know how to teach them how to draw fouls, teach them how to shoot threes, teach them how to handle the ball a little bit better than average. And you can do some damage and then make it fun. And so you're not doing that thing where, you're limiting possessions and you're trying to keep the game 55-40. That's no fun. Nobody wants to do that anyway. The kids would be much happier and probably get a lot more out of it, even if they lost 85-70. You know what I mean? But there's something there that they can take from that, and you can develop something from there. Versus the 55-40 grinds are just waste of time in my mind. Here's an interesting question I just saw down there: should Peyton Pritchard be getting more playing time? Did he get hurt because he only played 7 minutes, and I thought he was playing really well when I saw him in there? So did we see anything about him?
7 minutes.
7. Oh, never mind. I'm only on the first half. I forgot to clear it. He played almost 19 minutes. Is he that same guy who needs to be getting into the 20s or not?
With the roster they have, and I think that should be right around his average, wouldn't it?
Yeah, I think I agree with that.
That sounds about right. Yeah.
What he had tonight? Yeah,
he had 19 minutes. He went 4 for 6 from the field, 2 for 2 from 3, 2 assists. He's doing everything. A nice all around game. A nice guy too. I think he's a really good teammate, a guy, because I got to check his the game logs. But I have a feeling there were probably some moments during the season where he was kind of forgotten about. And you know, you have to be really patient and know that they're going to call your number and be ready and all that stuff. So, you know, and here he is. I mean, he's really important for them. They need that off the bench for him then to
his shooting off the dribble really helps them.
Yeah, and he's a little bit of a playmaker. So I'm looking at his minutes played. You know what? I mean, actually, he looks.
I think in this series,
was good for him.
Yeah, he should just be. Well, they should just match his minutes with McConnell's minutes, right? In this series.
Yeah,
it's an interesting point.
Yeah, I mean that makes sense. Yeah, I mean they're very similar in that way. You know, in the way they kind of. I mean, they're not similar in their games, I don't think. But and by the way, if we want to talk about McConnell for a second, what's really frustrating about him is that, well, the way he shoots the ball, it's a 2-motion shot, arrhythmic, high airspace, which means, you know, high release. And so there's no way to generate power with the arm swing up or any rhythm. It's all wrist. And so when he pulls up, even at full speed, like from 12 feet, and the ball is way up here because he feels like he's short, he's got to get it over somebody, the only power he has is from the wrist snap. And it's like he was short on all of those. He couldn't get any power from that. It's really frustrating to watch. And the fact that JJ Redick says that he's his best friend and didn't try to help him. I mean, JJ, you should be able to have seen that and help him out a little bit at some point. I don't know what he was doing, but that's not a best friend, man. Best friend who shoots like JJ Redick should be helping his best friend, TJ McConnell.
That's funny.
So, yeah. That's my little rant. I mean, I don't know if there's much to talk about. This game was kind of blah. We could quickly shift over to the video I did today talking about last night's game. If you want to do that for a few minutes, and then we can, you know, all go. Well, it's gonna be dinner time for me. So here's what's another rant. I think they have the solution for the drop coverage against Luka because Luka destroyed them. The solution is what they did on the first freaking play of the game. They went underneath the screen. And they did it twice, and he tried to shoot threes with a guy with the hand in his face, and he bricked both of those. Why not? Why not test Luka? Let him shoot some threes. I bet you, you know, get a hand up. Maybe he won't shoot that well from those, but it's a lot better than watching him shoot 15-foot jump shots or lobbing to the big guys. It doesn't make any sense to me.
That's interesting. So you're saying
they should just go under the screen.
Like Luka's average from 3 isn't like Steph. No, let's look it up real quick.
Yeah, but like, what do you risk letting a great player, right, get practice pull up threes, right? Like, isn't that what happened in Wakanda versus like the Suns 2 years ago, where he just obliterated them in the first quarter?
Were they going under? I can't even remember at this point. Was that what was happening?
Well, he was just bombing threes.
He's just bombing them from everywhere.
I mean, listen, okay. Yeah. All right, so okay, if that starts happening, then blast him then, because they blasted him a couple times and I thought, okay, maybe they're waiting till the very end to blast him, which they kind of did, but then they didn't. The last couple possessions they didn't when they felt like they could have. But they got to vary it. They can't run drop like 6-7 times in a row against him. I would almost say when he's going to his right on the pick and roll, go under. Because for the righty, especially for the way he shoots it, he's got to like take an extra step and get lined up. It might take him long enough where the defender can get around and get a hand up. Maybe if he's going left when he does that step back stuff, okay, then don't do it there. But I would no doubt test him and try that at least, and that would be a good way to keep him away from the basket and you know, limiting what his choices. You know, basically because the other alternative right now is not happening, and the fact that they wouldn't make an adjustment better than that was frustrating as well.
I'd try it right from the start. Go ahead and get under those screens right from the start, and then let him show us if he's going to start out hot. You know what I mean? Like, you know, hop into that screen, still get a hand out to contest. If he hits it, then you got to start blitzing. You know?
Yeah, I think you can get there. They're quick. I think you can get underneath there and get a hand up. It's all you want at that point. You know, it's what else are you going to do anyway? When he does the step back, he's going to create space. You know, that's about as good as you're going to get anyway, right? That's the whole point on that one. So if we don't see an immediate, and by the way, it was weird because the first play of the game, they did go under. And I'm almost picturing they must have yelled at him. It was McDaniels, like, what are you doing, man? And then he started going over again. But I would, if I were McDaniels, I would have been like, look what happened, man. That was good. We should do that again. You know,
let's do it a couple more times. See how that works.
Yeah. So, I played with that for a long time, even at the high school level. We were looking at this when pick and roll started becoming a bit more dominant. I'm like, how good is that high school point guard really going to shoot on those when you go underneath and they try and shoot it? Like, he's not going to be. Is it going to be 34%? Like, maybe in the long run, but I don't know. So that was my take on that one. What else did I take away from that? Just some weird coaching decisions down the stretch too. The out of bounds play they called when they were talking about slow-mo being the out of bounds in the inbounder, and then Luka could turn the other way and then take away passes. If you notice, I didn't mention this, but he puts his hands like on his butt because he's probably trying to make sure that you can't throw it off of him and then get the ball back, which is very smart. But that initial play where they had to call timeout because there was going to be a 5-second violation was the weirdest design of the play. It didn't look like anything, but they didn't. I think the bottom line is they didn't run it right. I don't think they ran it right. The description, I almost feel like I should draw it. Should I draw it for you guys?
Yeah, draw it.
Yeah.
All right, hang on.
Give us a visual, man. Give us a visual.
All right, let's fire this up. I have to do it in a weird way because of what's it called? The way I don't know. Getting here it is. Okay. Let me press this. Okay, so let me share this. So, are you ready?
Let's do
Here's the play, and it was weird. And again, it's like we all know I've had issues with with Finch and how he coaches. And so, can you see this?
Yep.
Yeah. All right. So ignore the bottom part, but okay. So they put Anthony Edwards here, and the ball was being inbounded by slow-mo Anderson. What's his name? What's his first name again?
Kyle.
Thank you. So the ball was here. So what they did was they had Anthony Edwards screen for Conley going that way, which would be the winner play, right? If you're kind of running that where you would skip it all the way there, because otherwise it's a wasted screen. Now, then they had Cat right here who was going to set a pin down for Anthony Edwards, who is here. So now he's got to kind of go all the way back around this way, and then he gets there and just stops. And Cat realizes, oh, crap, the clown is running. So then he tries to now run up here and be like a safety valve. They can't get it in. They got to call timeout. But, like, normally what you would see is some version of this where Anthony Edwards is here and he screens. Mike Conley goes so that Anthony Edwards' man might step that direction so that when Anthony Edwards comes off that screen from Cat, now he's open. Yeah. So I don't understand that. And I think in the very beginning they had Naz Reid was, like, up here. And Cat was here. So they did this, right? And they had Naz Reid get out of there. It just didn't make any sense to me at all. And it didn't work. And they had to call their last timeout on that play. And so now when you run the other time, and then the other problem was they had this interesting play where they put Anthony Edwards here, right? Now we've seen this play before where they have some version where Cat will flash to the middle and they'll inbound the ball here. And then right at the moment that Anthony Edwards is speeding right next to him and they quickly hand it off and he can go. We've seen this before. I forgot. Maybe the Celtics ran this, right? Maybe
versus Philly,
this, right? Can you picture that?
Yep.
Anyway, yeah. So, but there's a timing issue here, right? So they did all this crazy stuff with Cat, like the two guys sort of cutting off of him, and then, I know it was this way. They were cutting around. So they had, if Cat was like here and he was kind of like trying to set a screen, they got a little too cute. Whoever, this is Lively. I'm saying Blake Lively, but it's
Derek, yeah.
Who's Blake Lively? That's a woman actor, right?
Actress.
Well, yeah. All right. So Derek Lively's man comes around here, and they wanted to switch. Derek Lively was late. He got to about here with the same man before we realized he needed to switch. But what that meant was he was still sort of hovering this area. So when Cat tries to go, he actually was stopping that pass from getting there. Mm-hmm. So now Cat had to come all the way over here. So when he catches it here, now Anthony Edwards has to go all the way around here to get it. And the whole thing was a mistake. They didn't run it right. It wasn't designed right. It was too cute in the beginning with all the other action that got in their way, right? I guarantee you, if you literally just had, if you had Cat somewhere on the elbow and just had him run to there, he would have been able to catch the ball. Instead, he was trying to set all these screens coming around in the beginning, and that got all mucked up. It was dumb. So anyway,
that first thing that you showed, or the first thing that you showed with the full court one, where they've done in the past where Cat's flashed, caught the ball, and then Ant's coming up court, and he kind of it's a timing thing and hands off. We saw one of those things in the last couple minutes. Not often inbounds play, I don't believe, but that was actually one of the only incorrect no calls in the last 2-minute report was Cat's pass to Ant, where he does not get his foot down in the front court.
Oh, I missed it.
And they missed the backcourt violation.
Oh man, because I was already ripping apart this play, and then I totally missed that it was a backcourt violation. Oh man, I wish you had told me about that.
Well, no, I didn't think you were talking about that specific play.
Oh, you think it was? Oh, you're talking about another play?
I think it was a different one. Yeah, I think it was a different one. I don't think it was the one you were talking about because in the one that I'm talking about, it was more in the open court, like center court area, and Cat was on the other side, and Ant was coming up the left. So
I think I would have noticed that.
You remember that play, but Cat passed it across after he was in the front court, and then Anthony Edwards jumped from the back court and caught the ball before he had established front court status. So that should have been a backcourt violation. There was only 2 incorrect no calls. There was only 2 incorrect decisions in the last 2-minute report. One of them was a defensive 3 seconds, I believe, or no, a travel. And the other one was that backcourt violation.
Okay, good call. Yeah, and by the way, which reminds me, I know we filmed that last year. I'm going to eventually get that one done ASAP. We were on the court. And I think I released 1 or 2 of those from that session, but I know we have a big one that we went over a bunch of different ideas, and I know backcourt was one of them. So I got to get to that. I apologize for not getting it, but we have our first super chat of the night, which is getting toward the end of the show. But thank you so much, Corey Zadaman. Thank you. That's really, really generous of you. Canadian dollars are really appreciated. 6 straight seasons since the defending champion has made it past the second round. Is this the most wide open the league has ever been? Every season, it seems like a surprise team makes the conference finals with only a few repeat teams. Yeah, I mean, certainly in the 80s, it was always Lakers, Celtics, Philly. Houston was in there for a couple of those years, and then in the 90s again, Houston and the Bulls, in Indiana and the Knicks. Yeah, I think so. I mean, does it feel that way? I'm trying to think in like the 2000s if we had.
Then you got into the Golden State dynasty, like in the 2010s, I guess.
Yeah, and then LeBron ran it all the way through.
And then LeBron too. And the Heat. Yep.
Yeah. So yeah, I guess so. I mean, starting with Atlanta makes the conference finals in that a couple of years ago or a few years ago, and then from there. I suppose it is, and I suppose that's supposed to be good, right?
That's
feel
great.
Like
parity is awesome.
Parity
is awesome, but I wonder if you compare parity over the last several years in the ratings to what it used to be in other eras when it wasn't parity. If we're talking about ratings, that might not.
For the ratings discussion. So I'm talking about as a neutral basketball fan, not a fan of any team. Like, just I want to see something different from time to time. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I want to see some great teams or whatever. But I think most people, if you would have asked them at the start of this playoffs, they probably anticipated, or if you asked them at the start of a season, you know what I mean? Like, I think there was a stretch there. I mean, for decades where. At the start of the season, if you ask us who we think is going to be in the finals at the end of the season, we're probably at least going to get one of the 2 right. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like it just felt like that anyway. And there was probably a lot of people even this year that thought, Denver was kind of a lock to make it back, even though the West is a tough little gauntlet to go through. You know what I mean? But I think that they probably thought that. But the fact that they're not, I mean, I know Denver fans are upset about it, but I kind of like having some parity.
Yeah, I think that discussion is interesting because there's with who makes it to, if we're talking conference finals or finals specifically, I think there's context to how or who you played, right? Because the semifinals between Denver and the Timberwolves, that could have easily been the Western Conference Finals at the level of play, that level of basketball. It went 7 games. I think Denver was probably better than OKC. It's not probably. They're a better team than OKC. And they're probably a better team than Dallas. You can make the argument maybe saying Luka, Kyrie, and the Denver bench isn't as good. But I still think they probably if I had to bet on a team to beat Dallas, I think Denver is a better team. So I think the if in any other scenario, and it's because of Denver lost, right? That last
Mm-hmm.
game versus the Spurs, why they ended up in that matchup versus them in that second round,
Yeah.
right? So if they're not, right, if they win that game, they get the first seed, if I'm correct, and they play Dallas in the second round, right? They probably
Mm-hmm.
win. They're probably back in the Western Conference Finals,
Yeah.
right? So it's like there's context where okay, it's they played the one team that was literally built to stop them,
Yeah.
right? And they didn't have as good of a bench as they did last year. So
Right.
Mm-hmm.
it is what
And we
it
get to
is.
find
Yeah.
out now if they are built to stop the Mavs. I mean,
Yeah.
I kind of feel like they still should be, but they cannot make the mistakes that we're seeing. Even the little things in the margins. Jason Kidd, who by the way used to be in that same category in my mind of mistake prone coaching stuff or the players who do those things, has gotten a lot better, or he's gotten
Getting a
better
lot better, yeah.
assistance. Whatever it is, he's got his teams play like a well coached team now, right? Like that's how it feels like to me. It's funny because out of the woodwork, you're hearing people who are complaining about Carlisle in Dallas and doing some weird stuff too. He certainly got all the credit he deserved for winning that title in 2011 with that team. But I don't know. Nothing. I'm trying to search my memory banks for like were there moments. I mean, the only thing that I remember is he wouldn't foul up by 3 until recently. And then he also would control every possession, calling a set for every time down. And then finally, in Luka's, I think it was his second, maybe it was the first year, he finally like realized we need to let Luka go. And then they had an all-time great offense. And maybe that kind of shook him a little bit. But yeah.
But Carlisle's always had good offenses, though. I feel like he can get anyone and just. I think he has the best offense in the playoffs right now.
Yeah, probably.
Just system-wise, like though they get good shots. If they had better talent, like they would win a lot more games. But they get really good shots. The way that they play, they push the ball, they push the ball, and they make you rotate. They make you rotate early. They make the guy who's last. I think LeBron said it in the podcast, whatever. Before when they flatten the defense and everyone's at the baseline, and then you pass the ball out and you get a kick out, driving kick. Like they do that, so they're the best at doing it in the league.
By the way, I wonder if he had with a better team if they would play this way because they didn't play this way in Dallas, and you almost like by design need to do it that way. But when you get so the Celtics played this way, right? A couple of years ago, they were doing a lot of the same kind of stuff, more skip passes in middle penetration stuff. But they got better, at least, as Tatum and Brown got better, the ball stops moving because you want them to have the ball more. And that's frustrating because in my mind, because they're so good, they can
you should play that way.
They should be playing that way. Like if Kobe played like Rip Hamilton, he would have shot 10 percentage points higher as field goal percentage.
Yeah,
but he wanted to take those hard shots, and I'm Phil would be driven crazy as a triangle guy. I mean, I'm not making that up. We know that Phil.
We know it.
Hated coaching him for a lot of that because of that, and it's just like I just frustrates me because that as they get better and better, like the less we get of that, and then you get like LeBron-led teams, which is because someone controlling, or even Luka, until like Kyrie got there, just dominating the possession. The ball doesn't move, but you're right. I love it when you see, the Nets under Kenny Atkinson were doing this, and they were scoring on everybody that way. So it's great to see. Let's hope that maybe we'll find a couple of these superstars that will just play in that too and give us some of those moments. We have Martin Jose has a super chat. Thank you so much, Martin. Great to see you as always. Best friend of the breakdown. Do a breakdown video of why the Indiana Fever are 0-5. Yeah, I definitely need to do one on Caitlin Clark. What's happening there? I have to keep forgetting to check. She's playing a little bit better, right? Have you guys been looking?
I haven't seen stats the last couple games. I think after the third game, I haven't kept up as much because we've got all these playoffs going on. So
yeah, I hear you. And it's like I'm so busy. I'm running around like a crazy man. So let's see. Yes. So in the last 3 games, she's had 22, 17, and 21 points, and she's shooting, somewhat decently on those and shooting, decently on 3. So I think, I said give her 10 games to get her feet wet, to get used to this team, build some chemistry, independent of her getting screened really hard. And
I was about to ask you some of the only clips I've seen when I'm scrolling through Twitter, at least, our physicality plays. So how do you think? What do you think the adjustment period for her is going to be like from a standpoint of physicality versus college? I know we've talked about her finding a rhythm eventually and all that stuff, but do you think it takes a little bit longer to get used to the physicality in the WNBA versus college, or is there that much of a difference?
The difference in the NBA would be speed and quickness. You got to get used to that, and I mean, because college game is somewhat physical on the men's side. For the women, I would think that the physicality is definitely an adjustment, and they're listen, Caitlin Clark is going to bring the WNBA to another level of interest. I don't think I'm talking out of turn when I say that.
No, yeah.
And there are people who are upset with the other players who are like, trying to put her in her place a little bit. And, because this is someone who's going to, help. But I think it's all good and all competitive. And I certainly think that Caitlin Clark would expect nothing less than, people giving her their best and really making sure that they want to, she is that good. You're going to have to get her moving.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see. I'm going to watch a little bit more once the NBA playoffs are over, for sure.
Yeah, for sure. And we got another super chat. They're coming in at the end here. Joe B, thank you so much, Joe B. I'm high key pulling for Minnesota because if they make the finals, they'd be the latest in a long line of teams who beat KD and go really far. Is that right? So the Phoenix lost to Denver. Is that what happened last year?
Gosh, man.
Wow.
I'm trying to remember.
Wait, who beat them the Clippers beat them last year? No, wait, did they? Right?
Gosh. No, remember
Was
Luka beat
it
them, right?
Clippers?
Wasn't that last year?
Well, no, who eliminated? No, that wasn't last year. That was
2 years ago?
That was 3 years ago.
When was Luka laughing at him and they were all doing the whole thing? That was not last year?
That was Phoenix, but KD wasn't on the team.
Oh.
He's talking about with KD.
Wow.
No, they beat the Clippers. They beat the Clippers last year.
I mean, if only there was a way to find out what the results were from last year's playoff.
I know, right? We're sitting here trying to rack our brains on it. And I'm like,
no.
Man, I can't even remember that I had an appointment. Like,
Phoenix lost in the Nuggets. The Nuggets beat them last year. I was right. I thought so.
Beat them last year. Yeah.
And then if we go to KD's, all right. So the year before, let me just look at one more year before that. So the year before that, when he was in,
and that was Boston.
Well, in 22-23, he was in. That was last year. Okay, and then in Brooklyn.
Yeah, it was Boston that year.
That was Boston.
Yeah,
they lost
the 22 finals. In
Boston. And by the way, that year Boston went to the finals. So there you go. So there's something to that. Maybe there's something to that. I don't know, but
Joby just commented again. Said he found a stat that since 2010, the team that beats a KD team usually ends up at least in the finals most of the time.
That's crazy. I mean, that's happenstance, I'm sure, but it is crazy. I am a little bit worried about KD's legacy. I hope that he goes down. Maybe everyone remembers him as who he needs to be, but it's tough, man. I mean, listen, LeBron's legacy is in trouble a little bit here, don't you think?
I don't think it could get worse. I think it's he's played for so long. I think it's just at a plateau. Okay. I don't think he could do anything to change people's minds.
I worry that, like, we all we do is remember what the most recent thing that we saw, and if you do go back and watch the highlights, dear Lord, it's a different player, even though he's still filling up the box score and doing, but his teams have not, been able to compete as high of a level. So I just wonder. And now Jordan, I don't think ultimately suffered from the Washington years, which was a worry at the time for sure. And you know what? He wasn't terrible. He was actually pretty good in some obscurity.
He played all 82 games.
Yeah.
He played all 82 games, averaged over 20.
Yeah, with a bad knees at age 40, right? So
yeah. Blocking guys with two hands on the backboard.
And we don't see any highlights from that, right? I can't picture. No one's sharing anything from the Washington years. You know what? Maybe I should do a video on that to show, because I bet you there are some pretty good highlights even there of a guy who had to adjust and understand his limitations and figure out how to solve some problems that way. So, and then Joby has another super chat here. Thank you so much, Joe. 2013 was an anomaly year because the Grizzlies bounced the Thunder in the second round, only to lose the Spurs in the Western Conference Finals. Right, and that was 2013. Was the year that the Heat when Ray Allen hits the corner three.
Yeah,
right?
I think Katie hit his foot, or hurt his foot that series, right? Was that the year? That's why they beat him, right? The
Yeah, or
Grizzlies
was
beat them.
that? Well, remember when Russ was out for a lot of a season? Was that what season?
Yeah, I
Well,
believe so.
it was that season. It was that season because the
Yeah, I
year before
believe.
they played Houston, Beverly runs into his knee. Okay, yeah, that makes sense.
Oh
Actually, yeah.
yeah, Beverly did that. We probably all forgotten
Yeah.
that. If you don't remember, they were going to
Oh,
call
I'll
Russ
always
call
forget.
timeout at half court,
Yeah.
just dribble it up, and he went for like a steal and just injured Russ.
I believe it was a
something
meniscus.
like that.
Yeah, it was a meniscus.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And Russ actually made a so complete miraculous recovery that I can't believe how quickly he came back. Well, let's see. That was in the he came back by the playoffs, right? If only there was a way to find out.
I don't think he did because I remember Katie was going off that series and it was just him.
This is 12-13, right?
Yeah, 2013.
Yeah, no, he played the first 2 games in Houston. So was that the game? Was it a playoff game that Beverly took his knee out?
Yes, there was a playoff game. Oh, are we talking about the following playoff series, or are we talking about you're talking about that playoff series?
I'm talking about the 23-13 playoffs. I'm looking at Russell Westbrook's game log, and he played. Oh no, he played the whole season. This season he played.
Yeah, he played that whole season.
What
about the next one? Is where the injuries.
Is the next one where Patrick Beverly got him?
No.
Oh, okay. Well, what year did Patrick Beverly take his knee out and he got hurt?
It wasn't that 2013 playoffs.
Okay. If that was,
I thought it was.
Okay. Because then he plays the first 2 games against Houston, then he's gone for the rest of the playoffs. So my memory was he came back. So I guess maybe he just comes back for the start of the next season and it was fine.
Yeah, kind of.
Okay, maybe there's another knee injury he got that he came back really quickly from too. Maybe there's another one I'm forgetting. Anyway, but okay, great point all about the KD thing. Listen, KD is great. I love the guy. I love the way he plays. I would hope that he's not some sort of weird, guy who can project people into the finals for some weird reason. But maybe that's what that means. He's so good, and his teams are so good that if you can get by him, then finals or bust, I guess, for you. Maybe. All right. Well, listen, it's late out here for you guys. It's getting late for me too. But great show. Again, let's pour one out for the Pacers because it's over.
Yep.
I don't think they're going to win.
It's over. Yeah, you have to
I hate saying it's over after 2.
Yeah.
I hate saying it's over after 2 games, but I mean, yeah, I don't see any other way around it.
Yeah, I don't think they're going to win a game. Maybe they win 1, but I don't think they're going to win 1.
What are your guys' thoughts, real quick, on the All NBA teams? You think they got it right?
Was there anybody that was a noticeable like
Jaylen Brown?
Besides Jaylen Brown?
You could make a case for Tyrese Maxey, I think, a little bit
over.
Well, it's positionless, right? So the Sabonis.
Okay. So obviously, looking at the third team, then. Maxey could have. I mean.
But then who do you take Jaylen Brown over? I mean, actually, there's a couple of them that you would take Jaylen Brown over. But if Sabonis is one you're taking off, then I'm definitely putting Jaylen Brown in there in that next spot. But then if we're putting Maxey in there as well, who else are we taking out?
I mean, Booker I'm not taking anybody out for the first or second teams. I don't think.
Yeah, did you say Booker was on third team, right?
Yeah, Booker was on third team. Yeah, it's tough for 13. And Braun was on 13. It's
and KD, I believe, as well. Or was KD second or third?
KD was second. So, Anthony Davis was second and LeBron was third. I wonder if anybody else has 2. There must be. Bucks, Mavs, Thunder, Nuggets, Celtics, Knicks, Lakers, Suns, Timberwolves. No. Lakers are the only team to have 2 all NBA players.
But the Lakers are it's so interesting. It's not interesting. It's just like AD is so good, especially on defense. Like you can't leave him off. Like you can't leave LeBron off either. You can't.
I know, but
when you try to justify it,
how can they not be better than they are?
Yeah,
exactly. Because everyone else on their team is so bad.
And by the way, not only are they not better than they are, like they're getting some help with the free throws. Sorry, Chip.
Yeah,
but something is happening with the free throws.
That is very true.
Listen,
because the lack of threes.
Okay.
to balance
It's
it out.
still, I don't know if lack of threes. Does lack of threes explain the biggest historical difference by an order of 4x you've ever seen? Like, okay, you know what? I've done this. I defended the Lakers and I've tried to explain it for years. And I don't know.
You did a great video on it. You did a great video on it last year, and it actually made a lot of sense. But then when it happens again the second year in a row, where there's some differences, but they're still having that big of a margin, like it's kind of like, all right, like, I mean,
so
are
I'm
they
just
really
wondering
that
if
great
maybe
at drawing
AD and
film?
LeBron are maybe they're not as good as everyone wants to think they are.
If that's okay.
I don't know.
But it's like, how many guys would you take over Bron right now, though?
Probably everybody else in the All-NBA team.
You take him over. You take him over
You
Brunson.
take Sabonis over.
I would take LeBron over. Yeah, I would take LeBron over Sabonis. Yeah, certainly okay.
Obviously, yeah.
I mean,
okay.
It's
Second
like
team and
personal
up.
preference. There's a couple players maybe I don't like on the first two teams either that I would probably take LeBron over, I guess. But I mean, by the way, when you frame it that way, it's also a great argument. Yeah, you're right. Like, who would
exactly
over?
Well, and like, I mean, here's the thing: is like, maybe it's not the LeBron that we've seen the last few years, right? But
really good.
like, I thought there was. I mean, he's still LeBron. He still does his thing, but then also, I mean, wasn't he a better 3-point shooter this year than he's been in recent years? Or any time in his career? Yeah. So it's like he evolved in that way. Like I mean, it's the oldest he's ever been playing basketball, and he's freaking, shooting the best he's ever shot from three. So I mean, it's interesting.
I don't know, Coach. I don't know if you guys seen. He said it a few weeks ago on the podcast on Wednesdays that he drops. He said that he knows that he isn't disciplined, or he wasn't in the past or growing up with his jump shot. He would fade unnecessarily. He would do all these things because he was either bored, lazy, or whatever. And it was just so refreshing to hear because he knows.
He knows.
He has no idea. So he clearly knows he's doing it, but he's so good it doesn't matter.
Yeah. Right. I mean, it's interesting. He talks all about hard work and the discipline. He's talked about all that for years. All of them do. They know that paragraph that you're supposed to recite.
Yeah.
But for him to have the self-awareness that he didn't, I guess the real key is because he found success this year, he probably finally started believing that what JJ Redick did all those years actually did work when he probably would have been younger and been like, that doesn't work, doesn't matter. And you know what? It does. And it's really kind of weird that it took him till 39 to figure that out. And if he had figured it out at age 22, then he'd be so far ahead of everybody, including Michael. Imagine if he did that, and then the 2011 finals is a win for the Heat because of that, right? So many of those finals were done because they give him 10 feet of space.
Or the 2007 finals, the Spurs were going under every single screen. The paint was just packed. He couldn't do anything. If he could hit a pull-up three, that's a completely different series. Completely different.
I have a big gap of my NBA knowledge from 2004 to 2008 or 9. I just didn't watch the league at all. I don't think a lot of people did. It sounds like, but
it wasn't great.
But anyhow, all right. Well, listen, great stuff. Awesome show. Nice little thing at the end here, so we can light LeBron on fire. But I listen. LeBron is number 1B in my book, right there. Andrew Zhu, thank you so much, Andrew. Best friend of the breakdown, always there for us. We'll throw that out here. Where are you ranking Kyrie among point guards, most skilled ever? I like the best finisher. Even though his field goal doesn't really reflect that all the time, most creative finisher.
Like, I think those are two different questions. He can be the most skilled,
right?
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I was gonna say he can be the most skilled, but it doesn't mean he's the best point guard, right? Or the highest ranking one. Yeah. For how creative, I think his creativity on his finishes hurts him because he doesn't draw enough fouls on his drives.
Interesting.
That's a really good point.
Because he avoids the contact, his maneuvers and the switching of the hands. guys they completely miss
Yep.
because he avoids them, so he's not getting fouled instead of just embracing the contact. Unlike like the complete opposite of Harden, right? Harden is gonna get the contact and finish, get the and one. Kyrie is gonna completely avoid your whole arm and finish with the complete opposite hand with jelly and hit it on the right side of the corner and it goes in.
And sometimes in a way that you never thought he'd be able to avoid contact, and he does still. You know, I mean, that's a really good point.
Yeah,
really good point,
great point. Handle, probably the greatest of all time. I can't.
Oh
think
yeah,
of anything else.
I think so.
And then passing, you know, he can pass. You know,
he's
but we don't even have a definition of point guard anymore, right? Like I don't even know what that means these days.
Yeah, that's a fair point too.
You know, like he'll never average 10, 11 assists a game, right? He'll never have like one of those.
He could, but he's just too good at other stuff, right?
Yeah,
yeah. Once he gets once he gets downhill, he's not looking. I mean, like he's looking to finish. You know what I mean? So
yeah, it's a tough one for that position because you risk alienating your teammates by shooting those shots when you know it might still be your best chance of doing it, but after enough times, it's like you know you got to get the ball moving a little bit. Although I will say Kyrie isn't really that guy. He doesn't. I don't feel like his teammates would not want to play with him because of that. I feel like he does make the pass when he needs to. And by the way, this is his first year. I think he finally started to blossom as a teammate. You know, him and Luka are like peas in a pod, and I feel like Kyrie understands the importance of leadership and like you know in a good way, and trying to make sure that Luka stops complaining and has more of a smile on his face and the joy of the game. So that's really important.
Well, I mean, that's a great point because I feel like he enjoys playing basketball now more this season than I've seen him in the past. And I think that was an identity thing. I think it was a teammate he just didn't have the chemistry, but you know, and they're always in the news, like with the big three and, you know, I mean, just different things over and over and over.
Had nothing to do with basketball.
Had nothing to do with basketball. And so I feel like he's finally settled in and him and Luka are clicking. I love to see it, man. I love to see it.
Yeah, just stop talking about the earth being flat and then, you know, you get all your right. Anyhow, all right. Well, listen. By the way,
what do y'all think about this gift that I got from somebody?
Well, you know, his stance on the vaccination.
I could change my call, but then we'd both be wrong.
That's a great shirt. No, wait, you're selling those, aren't you?
No, I'm not selling them yet. I got this as a gift from somebody, but I am going to start making some ref themed and then angry fan T-shirts too. So
okay, please get those going.
Yeah.
And let us know. We'll make sure that everyone should get one of those for sure. I need to get one when they're ready.
When they're ready, I get some. I'm going to start wearing them on every show, so that'll be fun.
Awesome. Well, great stuff, everybody. And we'll be right back at it. I think that tomorrow's game, we'll probably have some more people here and more interest than what happened here. And
I think it'll be a better game.
It'll be okay. All right, guys. Well, thanks so much. And don't forget, sports fans, the B-Ball Breakdown. We're not a channel. We're a conversation. You in? Are you in, guys?
Absolutely.